The first thing she noticed was the silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes the smallest sound echo like thunder. Her boots sank slightly into the damp earth as she pushed through the tangled grass, the weight of her rifle steady across her shoulder. Beside her, the dog moved with the precision of a shadow, each breath measured, each paw pressing lightly against the soil. Then, through the mist it appeared, a blackened silhouette of twisted metal, half swallowed by vines and time, an abandoned helicopter. Her heart gave a single, hard strike in her chest. For a soldier like her, a helicopter wasn't just machinery, it was memory. It was comrades who had never returned. And something about this forgotten relic in the wilderness felt wrong, as though it had been hidden rather than lost. For a moment, the dog froze, nose lifted, ears pricked forward. The air shifted with an unspoken warning. She whispered nothing, only pressed two fingers lightly against the animal's collar. That silence, between woman and dog, soldier and sentinel, was the purest communication in the world. Together they moved closer. Her body bore scars that no uniform could hide. A long, pale line down her left forearm where shrapnel had torn muscle. The stiffness in her right knee where bone had been fused with metal. But the deepest scars lived unseen. Nights of carrying fallen brothers, of watching life drain from men she swore to protect. Nights of returning home to streets where strangers judged her with cold stares and whispered words, as though service made her less, not more. Once, outside a grocery store, a man had sneered at her uniform and muttered that women had no place in combat. She hadn't spoken then, just walked past, letting silence cut deeper than anger ever could. That silence had become her strength. And now, staring at the forgotten carcass of the helicopter, silence again became her weapon. Its body was charred, the tail snapped in half, rotors long rusted into stillness. Glass from the cockpit lay shattered like crystal teeth scattered through the grass. Yet what unsettled her wasn't the wreckage itself, but the way it looked staged as if deliberately abandoned, its story left untold. She approached with caution, the dog pressed close to her leg. Every step was measured. A crow burst from the tree line, and for a moment her instincts screamed ambush. But there was only the whisper of wings fading into the gray sky. Her hand brushed the cold metal of the helicopter door. The rust bit back, flaking under her fingers. She pulled, and the hinge groaned reluctantly, opening a space wide enough for her and the dog to slip inside. The air was heavy with the smell of oil and mildew, thick and suffocating. Light filtered weakly through shattered windows, cutting across dust suspended in the air like frozen rain. Her dog stiffened again, hackles rising. She followed its gaze. What lay inside stopped her breath. Rows of seats stained with age and weather bore no passengers. But the floor was scattered with belongings. A pair of boots too small for any soldier she had known. A child's backpack. A cracked photograph frame with a family frozen in mid-laughter. At the far end, near the cockpit, something glimmered under debris. She moved closer, pushing aside warped metal. It was a box military-issued, the kind reserved for classified transport. The locks had been forced. Inside lay documents half-burned, edges curling like dying leaves. She picked one up carefully. The lettering was still visible, though faint, coordinates, supply lists, names of villages, and then the name etched on it was not of some forgotten pilot, but of a comrade she knew had been declared missing. His body never recovered. For years, she had carried his absence like a weight across her shoulders. The world had assumed he died in combat. Yet here was his tag, buried in secrecy, left to rot with a wreck never recorded on any official log. The dog whined softly, sensing her tremor, pressing its head against her thigh. She steadied her breathing. The helicopter was no accident. It was a burial ground for truth. Her thoughts tumbled. Why had this been hidden? Who wanted this wreck forgotten? This soldier erased? And why the belongings of civilians? Families mixed with military cargo? Her chest tightened with fury, but outwardly she remained composed, face still, voice silent. She knew this discovery was dangerous. Evidence like this didn't just vanish by mistake. Men in suits somewhere wanted it gone, wanted memory itself buried. If she walked away with what she had seen, she would not be left unchallenged. but she could not walk away empty-handed. She slipped the dog tag into her pocket, then folded the least burned documents, tucking them under her vest. Her silence was a vow now, a promise to the dead and to those whose belongings lay strewn across the floor. The dog barked once, sharply, ears snapping toward the tree line outside. She stiffened. They were not alone. From the shadows, two figures emerged, men in dark gear, no insignias. Their posture carried arrogance, their eyes the cold steel of authority without conscience. They didn't need to say who they were. Their presence alone told her everything. Guardians of secrets, enforcers of silence not her own. One of them smirked as if she were prey cornered by hunters. His eyes flicked to her dog, then back to her, mocking. But she gave him nothing. No word, no reaction. She stood rooted, shoulders squared, silence louder than his sneer. Her stillness unsettled them. Men like that thrived on fear, on trembling voices. But she gave them none. Her silence was defiance. Her silence was a blade. The standoff stretched, heavy, suffocating. And then, movement in the distance. Shadows of others stepping into view, but these not hostile. Former comrades, veterans who had followed her trail when she disappeared into the forest. Their presence shifted the balance like thunder rolling over a battlefield. The two dark figures faltered. The two dark figures. Authority drained from their faces as they realized she was not alone. She had walked into this abandoned truth with only her dog. But unseen, silent bonds of brotherhood had followed her. In that moment, she reached into her vest and held the burned papers just high enough for all to see. Not a word passed her lips. The message was clear. The truth had survived, and so had she. The dark figures withdrew, retreating not in shame but in the hollow knowledge that power had slipped through their fingers. The veterans closed in around her, not speaking either, for no words were needed. Their silence was solidarity, unshakable as stone. Later, when the wreck was secured and the evidence preserved, she stood by the helicopter one last time. Her hand rested on the dog's head, eyes scanning the rusted body as if to etch it forever into memory. And then she spoke. Not loud, but steady, her voice carrying more weight than any shout could. Silence does not mean surrender. It means I carry the truth, and I will never let it die. The veterans bowed their heads, the forest itself holding its breath in respect. When the story broke, crowds gathered not with outrage but with reverence. Streets filled with men and women standing in silence, honoring her courage, honoring the comrade whose name had been buried in shadows. Public apologies followed, though none could undo what had been done. Yet she did not seek apology. She sought only dignity for the forgotten, justice for the silenced. Her dog pressed close against her leg as she walked through the quiet crowd. Children held their parents' hands. Strangers saluted. And still, she said nothing. Her silence had become the anthem. Because in the end, she knew what the world too often forgot. Not all battles are fought with weapons.